प्रपद्ये। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ओम वेदांतार्थ विभासकाय गुरवे शांताय सन्न्यासिने नानावादी नगेन्द्र संघपवये योगीन्द्र वन्द्याय च मोहध्वान्त दिवाकराय भगवत्पादाभिधां बिभ्रते तस्मै भाष्यकृते नमोऽस्तु सततं पूर्णाय बोधात्मने। ओम यस्य निश्वसितं वेदाः यो वेदेभ्योऽखिलं जगत् निर्ममेतमहं वन्दे विद्यातीर्थ महेश्वरम्। विद्यातीर्थ महेश्वरम्। महादेव महादेव महादेव। So far, the abhibhava, meaning the subduement of the various fluctuations of mind, which in fact are afflictions, and because these afflictions are subdued, they no longer are able to disturb the joy or pollute the peace. Therefore, the person, his knowledge, his peace, his joy remains uncovered, remains unpolluted, uncontaminated. Thus, this then is Jivanmukti. The Purva Paksha has raised a question which is very valid, and he says that since the prarabdha is a force which will bring the mind and the indriyas to play the role, meaning wherein the mind will be forced to assume the form of experiencership and doership. And by that, this abhibhava will also not be possible. When he speaks about prarabdha in this way, the teacher says it is also the prarabdha which will douse down these disturbances. So the prarabdha by itself can be viewed to have these two forces flowing in these two forces. One, wherein the prarabdha bhoga, the bhoga is brought and forcing now the identification with the mind and indriyas over there, and the force of prarabdha, which will douse down these the waves of identification. And for which Purusha Prayatna is required. Efforts are also required. So he says, if it is prarabdha, why would efforts be required? To which the teacher replied by saying, even apart from just talking about Jivanmukti, prarabdha for anything else, for any experiences to take place, drishta samagri is required. Prarabdha is adrishta, is the unseen force, whereas the objects and things in this world is the drishta samagri that is there. Without the drishta samagri, even the unseen force is not able to generate the experience to be had. Over here, we are going to consider the Purusha Prayatna, the efforts of a person, here in the sense, in the topic of Jivanmukti, as the drishta samagri, because of which now the Jivanmukti also is possible. And so he says, यदि शास्त्रीयस्य प्रयत्नस्य प्राबल्यं न अंगीक्रियते तदा चिकित्साम् आरभ्य मोक्षशास्त्रपर्यन्तानां सर्वेषाम् अनर्थक्यं प्रसज्येत. Now, if you do not accept Purusha Prayatna, which is the scripturally enjoined actions, as the drishta samagri, because of which Jivanmukti, accomplishment of Jivanmukti will be possible, then the Purusha Prayatna in all the cases, right from the science of medicine to Krishi, Vanijya, everything, hey, it will be there. So, Shastriyasya Prayatnasya Prabalyam Yadi na angikriyate tada chikitsam arabhya moksha shastra paryantanam. So everything over here will simply become futile. Because why to even take medicine? If it is in my prarabdha to be cured, I will be cured. If it is not in the prarabdha, even if I take medicines, I will not be cured. So might as well not take the medicines and the prarabdha will take care. No, this is not what is advised. Chikitsam arabhya, even when it comes to the diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment of any disease, of any illness, beginning from that up to the moksha, the Shastra, the scriptures, the science will become futile. Nahi kadachit karma phala visamvada matrena daurbalyam apadayitum shakyam. Sometimes one may see that in spite of doing the efforts, in spite of following the right course of action, then the desired result is not produced. In some cases. Now somebody is going to doubt by saying that the Shastriya Prayatna is Durbala. And finally, the Prarabdha only stood as the victorious force. So karma phala visamvada, there is a visamvada. So there is the karma phala does not match with the karma. So in spite of doing the right efforts, the right result is not produced. That is what is sometimes seen. But he says, Matrena karma phala samvada matrena daurbalyam apadayitum na shakyam. Kasya daurbalyam shastriya prayatnasya daurbalyam. You cannot say that, shastriya prayatna therefore is weak and that's why let us not do it, whatever is there in the prarabdha. So there is daivavad, fatalistic attitude. So over here, fatalism is not what is called as spirituality. There is definite place for purusha prayatna. Anyatha kadachit parajayam drishtva sarvaihi bhupaihi gajashwadi sena upekshyeta. Then, if this is the case, then even the kings who are defending their kingdoms and borders would say that if it is in my prarabdha not to be defeated or to be victorious, I will be victorious. Why to even have the defense system? Why to have even the army? Sarvaihi bhupaihi gajashwadi sena upeksheta. They would neglect the sena, and this is what had happened. Pandit Nehru wanted to, as the Prime Minister of India, when India got the freedom, he was the first Prime Minister, and he said that India stands for non-violence, and that's why we will not have the army. So he wanted to disband the Indian army, and he started disbanding the Indian army. And then soon enough, the Chinese army then started invading the Indian borders, crossing the Indian borders. And now the army was disbanded. And what could be done in that case? So then he had to bring those people back together. So it was like somebody saying, since I am a vegetarian, the lion and tiger will not eat me because I don't eat animals. You are the follower of non-violence does not mean that the party opposite to you is also going to be non-violent with you. And that is the reason why, even if you are non-violent, you will have to carry a stick only to keep the attackers at bay. If you see that, in the earlier paragraphs, we have seen that it was told that the sannyasi should carry a danda, a staff, a bamboo stick. And somewhere in our scriptures, it was said, so, some people carry it as, a very mark of some identity of very holy personage and so on and so forth. But it was said that in the early days, ancient days, when the sannyasis would move about from one village to another village, from town to town, where the population was still sparse, and they had to cross the forests or even small settlements, and to keep the gramya pashu, etc., away. So when he is going to walk with that staff, if there is a scorpion or if there is a snake, he does not have any intentions of killing the snake or the scorpion or hitting any dog that is barking at him. But just by keeping that stick, he can keep them at bay, a little away. And that is the reason why. Sarvaihi. So that's why fatalism is not what is said. It is the Purusha Prayatna which gains the prime importance. Ateva Ananda Bodhacharyaha Ahu. And this is what is said by one of the great teachers of the traditions, who perhaps was, who predated Vidyaranya Swami, in his words, Nahi ajirna bhayadva Ahara parityagaha. He gives three examples. Just because somebody is afraid of indigestion, and because it gives, the pain in the stomach, etc., that will that person give up eating food? Or should he give up eating food? Nahi ajirna bhayadva ahara parityagaha. Bhikshuka bhayadva sthalyanadhishrayanam. That because the bhikshukas, these people who would ask for alms, they will come to those houses from where they see the smoke rising from the chimney of the kitchen. So that is a sign that they know now this is a house where the food is ready or getting cooked, and they may come over there for begging, for asking alms. And so the Grihaswami is so afraid that somebody may come over here for alms. Will he stop cooking the food? Sthalyanadhishrayanam bhikshuka bhayan yuka bhayadva pravarna parityagaha. In, high in the Himalayas, when it is very, very cold, where it is very cold, people have to cover themselves in the woolen clothes, etc. And the winter times, it becomes, they have to keep, otherwise, survival is difficult. But sometimes, those clothes, because of the wearing those clothes all the time, they may develop, because of the sweat and moisture that is trapped inside, they may develop some lice or something. So will somebody just give up the pravaranam just because he's afraid of the lice that may come into the clothes or on the body? So that's why with these three examples, that nahi ajirna bhayadva, so kadachitva. So sometimes that you may find that the shastriya prayatna, in spite of the shastriya prayatna, in spite of taking the right course of the medicine also, the illness may not subside. Would that mean not to take medicines at all? And that would mean that, well, the illness can never be cured by medicines. Prarabdha alone is the thing. No, sir, that is not the thing. Purusha prayatna is important. And by these examples, ajirna bhayadva ahara parityagaha, bhikshuka bhayadva sthalyanadhishrayanam, yuka bhayadva pravarna parityagaha, is what Ananda Bodhacharya says, that though you may find somewhere that this prayatna has failed, but that does not mean that it should be given up. It means that discover that what is it that is depriving this prayatna from its efficacy. That is what one should see. Maybe the food, along with the medicines, one has to be on the right diet. And that's why, look at that. Is the food that I am taking, is that not being conducive to this medicine? For which now the medicine is not able to give its result. So other factors which could be responsible for depriving that medicine from its efficacy has to be found out. Giving up of medicines and a line of treatment is not what is advised. Okay. Furthermore, Shastriya Prayatnasya Prabalyam Vasishtharama Samvade Vispashtam Avagamyate. The Shastriya Prayatna, the right scriptural efforts are clearly, the importance of those scriptural efforts is known, can be understood very clearly. Vispashtam can be clearly understood from the dialogue between the sage Vasishtha and Bhagavan Sri Rama. Vasishtha Rama Samvade, where in the Vasishtha Ramayanam, okay, over there, Yoga Vasishtham, over there, this is clearly seen. And that the whole prakarana, this topic, begins with Sarvamevehi sada iti arabhya tad anu tad apyavamuccha sadhu tishtha iti antena granthena. So these are beginning from this place, this particular verse up to this verse is what is shown over here. Efficacy, it's Shastriya Prayatnasya Prabalyam, the efforts, the scriptural efforts and its importance is clearly shown in this dialogue. How it becomes like this. Sarvamevehi sada samsare raghunandana samyak prayuktat sarvena paurushat samavapyate. Iha samsare, in this very world, iha samsare he Raghunandana, O Shri Rama. Raghunandana is one of the epithets of Rama. Sarvamevahi sada, always, so unexceptionally. Sarvam samyak prayuktat sarvena paurushat samavapyate. Everything can be achieved, and everything means dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. All these purusharthas can be accomplished in this world. How? Samyak prayuktat, when it is properly done, the efforts in those directions are properly made, then paurushat samavapyate, everything can be accomplished. Sarvam, by that sarvam, what do you mean? Putra, vitta, swarga, loka, brahmalokadi phalam. Putra, vitta, swarga, dharma, and brahmalokadi phalam, even moksha, etc. also can be accomplished. Sarvam, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, everything can be accomplished. Paurusham, putra kame, ishti, putra kame, ishti, krishivanichya, jyotish, putra kame, ishti, krishivanichya, jyotishtom, brahmopasana lakshana, purusha prayatnaha. Now, when you have got putra, wanting putra, but the normal way is where getting married, and through the husband and wife coming together, they can have progeny. But if this doesn't happen, then there is a shastriya prayatna, which is called as the putra kameshti yashya. There is a fire ritual which is called, it is an ishti, it is called as putra kameshti. By performing that whatever is the adrishtam which is preventing now from the couple having children, progeny, that can be mitigated, and therefore this is a prayatna, shastriya prayatna. The other one is laukika prayatna, worldly prayatna. But shastriya prayatna is also there. Putra kameshti, then krishi vanijya, for vitta, in order to have wealth, krishi vanijya, commerce and agriculture. These are the right efforts. Then for going for swargaloka, etc., jyotishtoma, and for attaining the brahmaloka, brahmopasana lakshana, purusha prayatnaha. The upasana, the meditation on Brahman, is the right effort to attain brahmaloka, which is also the moksha, one kind of mukti. So here we have the right efforts in adequate amount has to be done. So therefore there is no space over here to complain by saying, well, prarabdha is prabala and purusha prayatna is durbala. No, if the prarabdha is prabala, then you need to have purusha prayatna, which will be prabalatara, which means if the prarabdha is strong and preventing you from attaining what you want to attain, then your purusha prayatna should be stronger than that prarabdha. And that is what is shown over here. And it has to be scripturally enjoined. Further, uchshastram shastritam cheti paurusham tvividham smritam tatrochshastram anarthaya paramarthaya shastritam. The purusha prayatna, the human efforts, are of two types. One, which is in resonance with the scriptures, and the other one, which is opposed to the scriptures. Shastritam and uchshastritam. Paurusham means the purusha prayatna, the efforts of a human being are of these two kinds. One is the shastriya prayatna, and the other one is ashastriya, meaning uchshastriya prayatna, wherein the efforts of the person are divorced, in fact, opposed to the scriptural injunctions, instructions. Uchshastritam. Then he says, tatra, in that case, means in both the things now, uchshastram anarthaya, the paurusha prayatnam, which is uchshastram, which is divorced, opposed to the scriptures, where will it lead to? Anartha. It will lead to misery. That what one doesn't want, that is not what is desired, and that's why it is called as anartha. That is not what is arthitam. That is not what is wanted by us. So that's why it is anartha. Narakadi. Nobody wants to fall into this pit of misery. So, uchshastram anarthaya and paramarthaya shastritam. The shastriya prayatna will take you to the paramartha, the highest good in life. Okay? So now we know that though somebody is relentlessly doing efforts, does not mean that he is a karma yogi. Some people have got that thing, that somebody is almost a workaholic, and that's why he keeps doing and doing, and that's why they say he's a karma yogi. Right, Baba? That's not the thing. The prayatna also has to be, the efforts have to be shastriya, righteous. And for these righteous prayatnas also to be called as karma yoga, it should be done with the attitude of worshipping Ishvara through your efforts. Just because somebody is doing karma, or doing, very, what do they call, day and night, that person is seen like working like a bull, and they say, oh, karma yogi. No, sir. That you can use that as, to praise him, or to, because you want to win his, what do they call, to be in his good books or whatever, but that is not it. The prayatna has to be What is the classification? Uchshastritam paurusham and shastritam paurusham. So uchshastram shastritam cheti paurusham dvividham smritam tatra uchshastram anarthaya paramarthaya shastritam. Now he will explain this shloka. What is uchshastram prayatnam? What is that uchshastram paurusham? Paradravya apahara parastri gamanadi. He's just giving you these examples. That taking away paradravya, something that belongs to someone else by force. So it is in fact a theft. a robbery, looting, plundering. By this, you may gain that wealth, but it will not lead to the happiness that this wealth has to take you to. So that's why Paradravya Parastrigamanadi, even Parastrigamanam is also Uchastram, because it is said, no, you should not lay your hands on the Parastri. Shastritam Nityanaimitikanushtanadi. What is Shastriya Prayatnam? The various actions or rituals as enjoined by the scriptures, which are the daily rituals or the occasional duties that arise, are the Nityanaimitikanushthana. What is Anartha? Naraka. The Uchshastriya Prayatnam will lead where? Ultimately to Anartha. And that Anartha means Naraka. Where there is only misery and noise. At the most, what will it be? Less misery and more misery. But there is no escape from misery, that is Naraka. Artheshu Swargadishu Paramaha. And that what is desired, that Sukham, which is the highest thing that can be desired, wherein there is no shadow also of Dukkham, which means Sukham, which is absolute, infinite, not limited, not polluted, not contaminated, even by by Dukkha anywhere. So that is Moksha, that is Paramartha. So what leads to the Paramartha? Right up to the Moksha? The Shastriya Prayatna. So Prayatna is there. Giving up Prayatna is not going to help anyone anywhere. So Prayatna is there. The Paurusham means Prayatnam. Prayatnam is there, but now you have to be very clear. Is it Shastritam Prayatnam or Shastritam Paurusham or Ashastritam Paurusham? That is what one should look at it. Abalyadalam abhyastaihi shastra satsangamadibhihi gunaih purusha prayatnena sortha sampadyate hitaha. Now, abalyad alam abhyastaihi, right from the childhood, that something is practiced sufficiently. What would you mean by sufficient practice? Which means that it becomes like the nature of the person. To be good is not because he was told today and then he's trying to be good, till the point that goodness becomes natural. Otherwise, our goodness is such that if somebody else is not observing or looking, we may not be that good. That's why it is said, if a person wants to know what that person really is, ask his wife, ask his children, and you will know whether what that is he as good as he wants to show. Because when within the house, now he doesn't need to put up that show of his goodness. But if he is really good, he is good inside and outside as well. So abalyad alam abhyastaihi, if these are the Purusha Prayatna, which we are talking about, is Shastriya Prayatna. How does that happen? That right from the childhood, it is practiced, and it has come because of this scriptural education, Shastra and Satsangamadibhihi, by observing the good people, the righteous people, by observing their interactions, their responses, the way they lead life, that is satsanga. Because of that, and because of the scriptural education, now gunaihi purusha prayatnena, through these good qualities which are acquired, noble virtues which are acquired, the person, when puts in the right efforts, then even the Parama Purushartha is also accomplished. Further, alam means sampurnam samyak ityarthaha gunaihi yuktena iti adhyaharaha hitashreyo rupaha. That what is shreya is also attained. When sage Vasishtha thus instructed Sri Rama about the prabalyam of the Purusha Prayatna, so that Purusha Prayatna should be in that quantity wherein, in that volume and with that intensity, that even the prarabdha also can be subdued. There Sri Rama says, but sir, Sri Rama is his disciple. So he says, Praktanam vasana jalam niyojayati mam yatha mune tathaiva tisthami kripanah kim karomyaham. Rama says that, sir, there are various vasanas, the samskaras which one has acquired over several births, now becomes the nature of the person. And these are the natural tendencies. So these tendencies which are there, and they control my emotions, they control my responses and reactions and various other cognitions too. So this is what, and I'm as if caught up in this web, like an insect gets caught up in the cobweb, and then the spider attacks him. Helpless. Now that small little insect is helpless, being caught in the cobweb. Like that, I find myself caught up, entangled, enmeshed in this vasana jala, in this various vasanas, and those tendencies force me as if into the course of action. Niyojayati mam yatha. Okay, so these tendencies, they force me into certain path of action. He Mune, O great sage, tathaiva tisthami, and I am that is how I am. Kripanah kim karomyaham, and over here, therefore, I find myself as helpless. Kim karomi, what should I do over here? That the Purva Vasanas, they are so powerful. What can be done over here? Iti. So Vasana means dharma rupa jivagata samskaraha. What is Vasana? Dharma rupa jivagata samskaraha. That Vasana is in form of samskaras, the impressions, the tendencies which are inborn, as if ingrained. Those grooves are set, hardwired, as if dharma rupaha, in form of good and bad. Dharma rupaha jivagata samskaraha. And I am just helpless puppet in the hands of these tendencies. When Sri Rama thus expresses his, as if he's a victim of the psychology, etc., there sage Vasishtha says, Ataeva hi he Rama shreya prapnoshi shashvatam swaprayatna swaprayatnopanitena paurushenaiva nanyatha. That what Sri Rama has expressed as his helplessness, Vasishtha turns that into his power bank. And he says, Ataeva, exactly Rama, for the same reason, I am saying Shreya prapnoshi shashvatam. You will attain the highest eternal good. How? Swaprayatnopanitena. That is the reason why if the self-effort is required, led by the self-effort, which is the Paurusha, you will attain the Shashvatam. Yato vasana paratantro bhavan ataiva paratantra nivaranaya sotsaha sampadito manovakaya jaya janya purusha vyaparo apekshitaha. Yataha, because now you have said, you know that a person is vasana paratantra. He is controlled by the vasanas, nothing else. He is controlled by the vasanas. Therefore, because he is controlled by the vasanas, vasana paratantro bhavan ataiva paratantrya nivaranaya, and therefore to discover the freedom from this to discover this freedom from the control of these vasanas, sotsaha sampadito. Now manovakaya janya purusha vyaparaha apekshitaha. What is required? Purusha vyapara. The person requires his own transactions with the world, but how those transactions should be? That they should not be something which is controlled just by the tendencies, but it should be in form of the jaya. Jaya meaning mastery over mind, speech, and the body. And how is this mastery acquired? Sotsaha sampaditaha, by one's own enthusiasm. Okay? So that Purusha Vyapara apekshitaha. Dvividho vasana vyuhaha. The vasanas are also of two types. The vasanas are also of two types. Dvividho vasana vyuhaha. Vyuha meaning something that is a complex. Just a minute. Anyway, Vividho vasana vyuhaha shubhaschaiva shubhaschate praktano vidyate rama dvayore katarothava. Now Sage Vasishtha says, Rama, you spoke about praktana. Praktana means which is acquired, which is already acquired, and hence it seems to be something that is inborn, inherent, already present. That's why you are able to see certain things in the children right from their infancy. Right from their infancy. You know, the nature of the child, if properly observed by the mother or by the family, certain things about his nature, how this child is going to grow up, or there is a possibility of him becoming that, are already displayed in his nature. Generosity, loving nature, or certain children are constantly, crying, cribbing. It could be also because of some illness or some pain. Okay, because of, the congenital problems also physically. But we are talking about nature. Some children would be unselfish, selfless, and some of them are, being very selfish or things. That's why this is what is already acquired, and the person has come with that kind of the mental structure. And as he keeps interacting with the world in this birth, then he will, that personality really starts manifesting. This is the reason why he says, Dvividho Vasana Vyuha. This Praktana which you are talking about, which is already acquired vasanas, those tendencies, they are of two types. Dvividha, Shubhaschaiva, Ashubhaschate. Some of them are auspicious, and the other one is inauspicious. Shubhavasana and Ashubhavasana. This is what one already has. There are these two. Now one has to discover Praktano Vidyate Rama. So now with these two, now he presents us with three categories of people. People who have Shubhavasana. Then there are people who have Ashubhavasana. And then the third will be people who have Shubha and Ashubhavasana in equal measure. So when we are talking about Shubhavasana, even if that person, there can be some Ashubhavasana, but the Shubhavasana is so predominant that the Ashubhavasana gets purgated. Okay, gets purgated. Then there are people who are predominantly with Ashubhavasana. Now this is a dangerous thing. And even if there is some little goodness in them, that goodness vanishes under the influence of Ashubhavasana. And then the third category is like us, wherein there are some Shubhavasanas and there are some Ashubhavasanas, and therefore now that they are in that conflict. They remain in that conflict. ये करो, ये कि हमें तो वो अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन ये करना चाहिए क्योंकि ये अच्छा है, ये this is the right thing to be done. But I'm constantly pulling in the other direction too. So these are the three categories of people. So how has he presented that? In the last quarter of the verse, he says, Dvayoho ekataro thava. Of these two, there will be one, Shubha or Ashubha. Or by Va, the third category wherein Shubhavasana is also there and Ashubhavasana is also there. So therefore, Vidyaranya Swami explains this, Kim he Ram dharma adharma ubhavapi tvam niyojayate uta ekataraha iti vikalpaha. So what are the vikalpas? What are the options over here? He Ram, is it dharma and adharma? Both of them are equal, the streams are equally powerful in you, or one of the two. Dharma means Shubhavasana or Ashubhavasana. Uta ekataraha, or one of the two. Ekataraha iti vikalpaha. Ekatara pakshepi shubho ashubho va arthat siddho vikalpaha. And ekatara paksha means either Shubhavasana or Ashubhavasana. This vikalpa is Siddha, Arthataha Siddha. Shabdataha bolne ki zarurat nahi. Arthataha, it is there. So now we have these three types of vasanas. These are the prominently these are the forces that prominently govern the psychology of the person. And that is what one will have to become little introvert and look at oneself without any judgment, without any justification. Because if there is some justification, I'm an angry person, and I discover that I easily am ignited, my tolerance level is extremely low. No, that is because, my mother was like that. Well, mother, father, stop blaming. By blaming, you're not going to come out of that problem. At the most, you have a justification that, I'm angry and I'm irritated all the time because I had a father like that. But is it stopping you from overcoming that irritated personality? No. Therefore, that blame game is not what we have to see. We have to see how the problem can be resolved. That is more important. So therefore, just sit for a while and choose certain interactions of the day with the world and discover what was my attitude over there. What was my attitude over there? What were my intentions over there? And this is something that one has to do for himself. Look at yourself as an observer. Discover. Then after, we will find a solution to that if there is anything that is problematic. So up to this point, this Vasana Vyuha is presented in these three categories. And therefore, the Purusha Prayatna is important. Even if there is Prarabdha, and if that Prarabdha is strong, yet the Purusha Prayatna can be stronger than the Prarabdha, and the Prarabdha can be therefore changed. Can be changed. Okay. So let's see. Otherwise, what will happen? The entire Shastra, beginning from the science of medicine to the Moksha Shastra, everything will become futile, and the person will have only a fatalistic philosophy to live with. And that fatalism is extremely dangerous, because it is something that is, what do they call it, pessimistic. It is pessimism. So let us look at the Purusha Prayatna, and what kind of Purusha Prayatna will we require on this path is important. Let's see that when we meet next. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakrito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Thank you, friends. Thank you all.